BIP of Bizarre Interest Productions, and thank God Beatbreak got confirmed to be getting an English dub. Immediately after it got confirmed, they were being worked on, and a Ghost Game dub was actually released. Like, Digimon is finally working on its distribution problem, but holy fudge has it been a problem for at least decades at this point. And I need to explain why this is a big deal. The major problem with Digimon as a brand has been its marketing, aka their lack thereof, and refusal by the higher-ups at certain points to distribute their damn content overseas for numerous years at this point. This annoys me more since I'm more of a casual anime fan of Digimon, but holy crap, when I heard about the games, yeah, I was pissed too. For example, Digimon World Redigitized on the PSP and Digimon World Redigitized Decode, an enhanced port update re-release that added new story content and more than doubled the number of Digimon you could raise that of on the 3DS. A system perfect for casuals, given that Level 5 did the exact same thing with LBX, and yet Japan only released them in Japan, so fans had to make a fan translation in late 2020, and most casual fans don't have the means to set that up or be able to access that. Digimon World Next Order wasn't translated until they made a port for consoles, which is definitely a good thing because once they did, despite some issues with Bandai Namco's Western branch flip-flopping on what system it'd be released on, it came with an English dub, but it also covered a patch for the other languages. But for the English dubs, we had Richard Epcar reprise his role as Metal Edamon, Mari Devon returned for Talmon, and Ben Diskin returned as Shoutmon, which is awesome. Always good to see kids' roles that you heard for the Digimon on screen pop up in the games. The same cannot be said for Digimon Story Lost Evolution, which was only exclusively Digimon Story Super Cross Wars and Red and Blue, which also came out in 2011 when Fusion was airing, and based on Digimon Fusion, where Taiki or Mikey lead different groups of Digimon, which would have been a perfect game to introduce the new generation and to the franchise with, but no, Nickelodeon and Saban didn't know how to advertise, and they also sucked at releasing Digimon Story Lost Evolution. I got that wrong on my script, but running a little bit late with these videos, so sorry. Afterwards, we'll talk about Digimon Universe Apply Monsters 3DS, which, don't get me wrong, we'll get to the anime, but this came out, and yeah, I did hear the game had bad timing when it was released, and was overpriced, but people did enjoy the game for reviews and considered it a solid entry, but I have to talk about the show later, which I'll get to. Heck, Digimon Tamers Battle Spirit 1.5 was only on the WonderSwan color, but there was no effort to put it on the PlayStation or Game Boy Advance when they put both Battle Spirits on the Game Boy Advance, so it was clearly easy to port. And we haven't had a Digimon fighting game since All-Star Rumble. And I have problems with this game and roster. First off, this game was made thanks to a petition called Operation Decode, a fan campaign designed to show support for the Digimon franchise in the Americas and Europe. So as a response, they made a trailer for All-Star Rumble on July 31st of, I believe, 2014, with the Western audience in mind, with the Digimon using their English dub names and attacks released on November 11th. And it did not do that great, and it had a slew of problems. But what bugged me was the roster. Only representatives from the first 3 series and the Fusion were on this. And a smaller roster could have worked, but there was no representation from Frontier or Data Squad. Now, distribution of Digimon was owned by Saban Brands, and with Power Rangers, some of the higher-ups were kind of throwing anything that Disney ever made or was related to under the bus, which was questionable, but Sensation Animation had people working on Studiopolis under Disney's distribution, featuring people who worked on the original 3 dubs. Not to mention Jeff Nimoy, who played Tentomon, was the script adapter and came up with the Citramon dub idea, since Disney didn't want references to bombs blowing up amusement parks. But he wanted to revise it since it was crucial to Thomas's development again. And I would like to remind you, Matt and Takuya have the same voice actors. If it was development time that made the roster small, fair enough, but we couldn't have gotten Biomon and Gomamon for Flamemon, so there's at least one rep for a franchise. Not to mention, people didn't like the gameplay, there were some bugs, and the worst part is Digimon Adventure on the PSP that was basically a modern RPG take on Digimon Adventure put on the PSP, and gave all their teams their own Mega Evolutions before Tri made it cool. That would raise my probe, and at least developed by them, and yet they weren't told to translate it or allowed to translate it, but were told to make All-Star Rumble instead. And it didn't even release in Japan! That entire video I made about making a new Digimon Rumble roster fighting game was made because of how lackluster the last one was. The only saving grace is that this game did well enough or passed the test to get Digimon Cyber Sleuth and future games localized. And thank God for that, but man, it could have been better. Too bad that didn't save the dubs from not getting adapted, because what do you mean the Digimon Cross Wars wasn't dubbed into Fusion for its final season? And look, outside of some scenes that were edited terribly for the first 2 seasons, seriously, way to script the Matadormon fight, Nick shelved it to Nicktoons after 3 episodes despite starting a Power Hour block with Power Rangers. Further proof you can't trust Nickelodeon with children because they'll give responsibility to someone else less fortunate and then be surprised when they struggle instead of letting things breathe to fight an audience. But what makes the fact that Young Hunters didn't get dubbed even more ridiculous is because A, all the dub actors for the people who played their roles are either still active in voice acting or could return to the roles. B, one of the criticisms was that too many characters are silhouetted in the final battle, and at least the dubbing, adding, and dialogue could have had cameos from some of the actors and actresses who wanted to or could have returned. C, this was Digimon's anniversary season, and while some people loathed the season and others think it wasn't that bad and had some merits at the very least, this was probably for Digimon fans who grew up with the series or the newer ones since Young Hunters focused on the fusion cast before bringing in the past heroes, so the work was gift wrap for them. And E, I heard a rumor that allegedly Saban Brands dubbed Precurrent to Glitch Force because they wanted to have the license to continue dubbing Digimon, and yet those lazy cheapskates didn't even bother dubbing the final season. You had less than 30 episodes left, opportunity to work at Bandai and resell and make more merch based off the new characters and people's nostalgia, and yet you didn't take it, yet still made 2 dubs for Precur and cut most of the show down from 48 to 30 episodes, including the arc in the 30s that was giving the characters more developments. And then we get to Digimon App and Monsters. I understand that the rest of that franchise did not do as well as anticipated besides the toys, but distribution could have helped with that, especially since the anime was actually really good. Look, Digimon seasons, with the exception of Tamers, if you count the core trio, have always kind of struggled with balancing the main characters. Sabers came close after Tamers since all 4 got Mega and Burst, with only Marcus getting that last minute power up for Agumon. But Yoshi got the least fleshed out of the 4, sadly enough. And her and Keenan had to share their Burst Mode debut in the same episode. Apple of Monsters actually avoided that issue by giving all 5 of its protagonists their own story arcs and character development. They didn't neglect the Digimon and the Atmon in this case, and had a pretty solid narrative through the through line. The first arc focused on the core 4 and learning more about Ray. The second part was about them finding about the last 7 codes to reach the underground. The third arc added Eugene into the fold as the heroes faced off against L Corp's Elite Digimon Atmon 4, and the final arc had all the heroes reaching God modes with a twist and an emotional end. And while I feel like they didn't use the evolutions for Eri and Astra Super and Ultimate forms, as much, and some of the villains ranging from Yanimon to Coachmon to Sakuishamon, they could have used a bit more screen time before they died. It was still a solid series that avoided a lot of the pitfalls, especially after Evolution and Adventure Tri were so polarized, some of the original creators were not fond of who was in charge. And it wouldn't be the first time in the English dub or focus how popular the series is that didn't do all that great financially in Japan. Bakugan flopped in Japan, but did well over here in America and Canada to the point where I got 4 seasons and 2 reboots. The show was serialized to the point I only called 2 episodes filler, but it didn't fall into the trap of not making the episodes stand out, and they actually used the theme system technology to show the dangers of it evolving, but not be completely cynical about that. Which Beatbreak is switching that from what I've seen, but in an earnest way that actually seems to complement each other. Now, I agree with the criticism that the Ghost game dub was kind of late. And outside of some changes, like some of the attacks being changed, because I actually prefer Planet Knuckle to Planet Punch, because Knuckle kind of has a bit more impact since they are specific about it. But I'm glad they made it, since outside of like a few bad examples, dubs are a great way to get people into a show. Subtitles aren't the only form that's accessible to people, and some people just like to watch a show while also be able to hear it in a native language. Which, yes, getting people into a franchise via accessibility is never a bad thing. Plus, they did get talented people to work on it, and from what I've heard, it sounds pretty good. Based on the clips, the voice direction for Gullis was not what I was expecting, but I find it interesting and it works in its own way. It probably took them time to find a proper distributor, but it looks like they're avoiding that issue with Beatbreak since we just got that announced like about a week ago. Because when Beatbreak got announced to have an English dub, my jaw dropped. Now, there is a part of me that, thanks to the combination of the video games getting dubbed, outside of Time Stranger doing really well as well, Bandai Namco finally decided, hey, let's us and Toei Animation do our best to try and get Digimon out there more to have this new renaissance. And while I know Ghost Game has still been divisive, I still have things I like about it, things I dislike about it. And Beatbreak, okay, look, I know I need to watch it and catch up more. I'll catch up before the second quarter ends, I promise. But it's also being well received, and that's partially because I have someone who worked on Data Squad as the writer, and clearly he's improved his craft since he worked on Data Squad. Not to say it was bad, but, you know, we always like seeing a writer evolve and improve over the years. So, yeah, I'm excited and happy, and I'm looking forward for multiple avenues for people to get into Digimon, and if the dubs help with that, that's also a great thing. And hopefully it gets more people in, which I'm also looking forward to seeing. But that's it for me. Thanks for watching. Long live Digimon and VIP of Bizarre Interest Productions. Signing off.